Highlighting symbols. This is podcast number 95. It's at the basic level and requires no knowledge of Accordance Bible software or Hebrew or Greek. The path from simply reading the Bible to studying it is a long and satisfying journey filled with benefits. Many people just don't know how to start. Well, the first step is to learn to read the Bible closely. We're not talking about racing through the Bible here in order to read it through in a year. It's slower than that. It's more than simply skimming its surface, or even reflecting on a passage for devotions. It means paying attention to details, asking questions, finding answers, and rethinking the passage's message in the light of all that we've discovered. Many people find underlining, highlighting, and marking their Bibles with symbols helps them to read it more closely. Colored pens and highlighters help, as do using certain symbols regularly. In fact, several different marking systems have become very popular. As a group, these marking systems are often called Inductive Bible Study. There are 2 different Lighting the Lamp episodes on this technique, podcast 9.1 and 9.2. Accordance has long offered highlighting and underlining. Now, we've added a new feature we call highlighting symbols. There are 130 of them, and they can be placed under any word, phrase, or verse reference in any of Accordance's resources. Yes, that's right, the new highlighting symbols can also be used in all of Accordance's tools. So where do we find these symbols in Accordance? First, make sure the toolbar is open. It looks like this. If you don't see it, either use the window menu to open it or the keyboard command. On a Mac, that's Option Command 0, and on a PC, that's Alt-Control-0. Now, click the Highlights button. What we'll see is a pop-over palette like this, with both highlighting and our new highlighting symbols. Now, we can use the palette like this, but I prefer to undock it. That's this button. Clicking it turns the highlight palette into its own window, which I can then stretch and move anywhere I want on my monitor. Here's the free-floating palette. Notice that it allows us to see a lot more symbols at once, though not all 130 of them. Just move the slider left or right to see the others. Now, there's no right or wrong way to use these symbols. In fact, every IBS system, and sometimes it seems like every instructor, seems to use a different set of symbols. When we designed these, we decided to include all of them, and more, to make this marking system useful for all kinds of study. So whether you're Christian or Jewish, you'll find everything here you need to mark your Bible for personal spiritual growth. But we've also added symbols for students and scholars in other disciplines, historians, theologians, anthropologists, exegetes and textual critics, even logicians and those who do discourse analysis. In short, we've kicked the ends out of the Inductive Bible Study box so that everyone can benefit from it. Notice that we've made these symbols really colorful. We had 3 reasons for that. First, color aids in quick recognition every bit as much as shape. Second, many people find Bible study challenging, especially at the outset. Color helps make Bible study fun and way less intimidating. And third, children love bright colors, and we'd be really pleased if more kids started using Accordance to study their Bibles. Accordance allows users to create and save custom sets of highlights. We simply click the Action menu in the Highlight palette and design our own. We can then switch highlight sets using this drop-down menu. The new highlight symbols are not customizable. However, if we're not going to use them, we can hide them using this menu. The Clear button, which we'll look at in just a minute, is located right here. Well, with all that out of the way, here's the desktop setup I usually use when I'm doing Inductive Bible Study. Notice I have my highlights at the top, stretched so I can see as many of those symbols as possible. I have my Bible on the left, and my user notes in a parallel pane on the right. This combination allows me to underline, highlight, mark up my text with symbols, and record my insights with minimum distraction. Adjusting our text display is essential to using these symbols effectively. Look at the difference in these 2 side-by-side text displays. The one on the left is simply messy. The symbols are small and hard to identify, and they overlap the words, making them difficult to read. The text on the right is much better. The symbols are large and easily visible. They're also separated enough from the text that it can be read easily. The trick is to use a slightly larger font size and increase the amount of leading. That's the space between lines of text. Both of these settings are in Text or Tool Display. Just select the proper pane and type Command-T on a Mac or Control-T on a PC. Notice I have my font size set at 27. That makes both the font and the symbols larger. I've also set my leading to 80% rather than my normal 15%. The extra room gives the symbols a bit more space to breathe, and the combination makes reading and studying a pleasure. We can hide our highlights in any resource. The Text Display Advanced settings allow us to make all sorts of adjustments to our display, including showing or hiding verse highlighting and word highlighting independently. These adjustments can also be made for all texts and tools, what we refer to as global preferences. These are set in the Preference panels for texts and tools, available under the Mac Accordance menu and the PC Edit menu. Just look for Text and Tool Display and apply your choices. Be careful, though. Changes in these panels will remove any customized settings you have for individual tools and texts. It's easy to use highlighting symbols in accordance. Just select the word, phrase, or reference, then click on the highlight or the clear button. Users can also superimpose multiple symbols and underlines in the same place. Highlighting a word or phrase with a click applies to just that particular version of the text, not any other version or language. The same is true of shift-click, which applies the highlight to every hit in a search. Verse reference highlighting works differently. Reference highlights appear in all versions of the text in every translation, no matter what language it's in. And by the way, Command-8 on a Mac or Control-8 on a PC applies the most recently used highlight to the next selection. There's not a one of us that is perfect, so for our sample study today, I thought we might take a look at a passage that deals with restoration. Galatians 6, 1-3. Brothers, if anyone is caught in a transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone thinks he's something when he's nothing, he deceives himself. First, I see here Paul is addressing a Christian community, so I'm going to mark this verse with a church. Now, were I in the Hebrew Bible, I might use a temple or a Star of David to mark a similar passage instead. Notice that this mark appears in my Greek New Testament too, because it's a verse reference mark. Next, I see Paul gives this instruction to the congregation, to the brothers. So I'm going to use the people symbol and mark the word brothers. Notice that this symbol doesn't appear in the Greek version, since it's applied to a word and not a verse. Now, I'm going to go through these next couple of verses and place appropriate symbols as I go. Transgression gets a lightning symbol, which I associate with God's wrath. Since the instruction is to restore the individual with gentleness, I'll use a broken heart to mark this word. We're all sinners after all, so anger and self-righteous indignation has no place in this process. Next up is restore, which requires a change of heart in everyone involved in the process. Just for fun, I'll mark this command, watch, with a pair of glasses. The law of Christ gets a Bible, while thinks deserves a thought symbol. Notice that these symbols include the entire range of human domains and activities. Now, let's scroll this highlight palette and see what other symbols might be appropriate. Ooh, how about a thumbs down on deceiving ourselves? Now let's try another verse mark. Bearing one another's burdens certainly relates to a healthy community, so let's mark verse 2 with people. And again, notice this verse symbol also appears in my Greek New Testament just like the other verse symbol. If I search for the key word translated spiritual here, I can use shift-click to mark every hit with a halo. Notice this word is translated spiritual blessings here in Romans, but the search still found it, and shift-click still marked it, since it marks all hits. Now this is a really powerful feature when used in combination with our flex search option. Now let's move back to our study passage so I can demonstrate just a few other features. Repeat marks using the Command-8 or Control 8 on a PC, and the clear button. We'll use these camels for the repeat marks. You can see I'm now pressing Command 8 and marking the second word without returning to the palette. I really don't want camels here, so this also gives me an opportunity to show the clear button in use. There, now the camels are gone, and that's how the clear button works. Finally, if you're going to spend a lot of time marking your Bible, you may be interested to know that Accordance allows us to search for highlighting of all kinds. We just use the style command, like this, and replace the question mark with the name of the style. For instance, glasses. That's all there is to it. Accordance's new highlighting symbols make Bible study easy, even for the beginners and the youngest among us. They let us mark our Bibles the way we want, highlighting the words and themes that are important to us. Whether we use these for personal devotions, intensive Bible study, or to prepare sermons and lectures, highlighting symbols give Bible study a visual punch. Start using them yourself today. This has been Dr. J for Accordance Bible Software. Thank you for watching this episode of Lighting the Lamp.